Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for basically doing what you do as educators on a day to day basis. We are in a time where we have to pull together all of our resources. But we have to also make sure that our students are having an equitable access to everything that we need. And so today I want to talk to you about making sure that our young ladies are still taken care of. There's still a lack of girls involved in computer science and STEM fields. So I want to make sure today is just a message, a call to action to make sure that we have a clear understanding. So I want to know where my girls at. When we think of this, what happens with this? So I want to pause for a second and just think about what does she mean by this? Where are my girls? Where my girls at? And so in schools, a lot of schools right now are closed. However, a lot of our schools, when we were open, our carers did not have the access that they needed to computer science and STEM fields. And so I want to make sure that when you're thinking about your distance learning plans, making sure that we are focusing on all the whole student and to provide them equitable access. And so this is a call to action. And so when I say a call to action, what this means is that unless you've been living under a rock, like I said earlier, a lot of women are in fields that, wouldn't even be thought of, but there's still a lack of them. And so I'm going to take you back and talk about where I was and the reason why I always, and this is near and dear to my heart. Back in the day, hey, I was always a techno girl. I always wanted information in regards to being in computer science and STEM fields. And so when we think of this, like you're looking at right now, when we think of these floppy disk drives, and you probably have played with the Tamagotchi before, but I was the girl. I love pagers. I love taking them apart. I love fixing computers. Hey, I was named the techno girl. My mom made me resources possible for me throughout high school. And so throughout the high school, basically, I was the go to person. But think about our young ladies now. We have that person that's in our classroom, that young lady that is your go to person. And so think about the opportunities that we're presenting for them. And so let's fast forward a year from graduation college. I had a professor that came to me. I was getting my papers ready. I was about to graduate. I came into her office. I was so excited. And she said, Kim, I just don't think that this is a great major for you. I don't think you should major in education technology. I was shocked. I was so shocked. I didn't know, what to do. I was so, just taken aback that she would say this to me right when I'm about to graduate. And so, and basically she was a lady. And so she said, women are not really making it in this field. I think you should go back and major in history. And so, if I listened to her, where would I be? But sometimes students listen to the no's instead of the termination. So, where my girls at? Now, you've probably been thinking about this is always reminds me of, where's Waldo? And I'm pretty sure you've probably seen this picture circling around with memes on the internet and things like that. But when I think of this, I always think of, where are my girls? They're far and few, and the diverse backgrounds are not represented in a lot of times. So, a lot of times, I was in high school, and a lot of the girls are in high school. And they're sitting in classrooms wondering how they're taking a particular class or what would help me in life. Students are always asking this a lot of times. And so luckily, most of the courses that I was taking was actually complemented to what I wanted to plan and do in college. However, back then, and I say back then, I actually was taking educational technology classes. And so these educational technology classes, were something that we didn't even think of. And now, for instance, like this day and age, distant learning is something that we are really focusing on. But when I was sitting in these classrooms, as a child, I was intrigued by how computers operated. I wanted to know how emails were sent and then magically appear in someone's mailbox. I couldn't get enough of this. And so a lot of my teachers were aware of this as well. But my mom was always the person that really drived and put the focus in me to actually want to do and major in the things that I'm actually doing right now. But what if we don't have this person? What if you are the educator that is the person that's in the middle of a young lady actually majoring in these fields? So let me take you back. Not too long ago, these computer scientists look just like you and me. They were women. And so when we think of this, what happened? What happened in regards to this? What happened? And so we always look at this picture, and in lots of the actual, for instance, hidden figures, and these outstanding women built supercomputers by hand, and they help people get to space. And we hear hidden figures all the time. And the majority of these women were the ones that were working in these fields. However, where are my girls at? Now, we always laugh. I always laugh when I see this because of the fact that this is a lot of the kids, when the Hidden Figures came out, they saw a role model inside of them. But do kids really see role models at their schools? Are you able to bring those and make sure that they're represented fully? That's something to think about. But am I taking you back? So, in the late 1960s and throughout the 1980s, really, the computer girls emerged and they were in front and center. And so, this is an article that was written. And so, it talked about Dr. Grace Hopper, who was phenomenal in leading as a computer programmer. And so it talked about how an analyst got paid up to $20,000 for being a computer analyst. And so this was really something that was big in the 70s and the 60s. But what happened? Even Barbie got in on the action, in the 70s and the 80s. This was something that young ladies were really wanting to do. But there was a shift. And what happened to the women that were leading the way in STEM and computer science and STEM fields? What happened to the shift? 1970s, 1990s, there was a huge shift in women majoring computer science and STEM fields. But then in the early 2000s, when the dot-com boom happened, this suddenly changed. And so when I say the dot-com boom, women began shifting to fields that, basically were no longer attached to STEM and computer science fields. And sadly, the decline began. And when I say the decline, what we're looking at today, we have a huge digital divide and crash that's happening right now. And so society in the early 2000s, started seeing that women were not equal or not really ready to be in STEM and computer science fields. You know, Revenge of the Nerds. We always, every time I talk about the Revenge of the Nerds, this is hilarious. However, there were really no Revenge of the Nerds that looked like women. A lot of the people that we think and a lot of what students think in this day and age are white males with glasses, suspenders, something that we deem as the nerd. And so we want to make sure that we have a clear representation of what a scientist looks like. I was actually doing a session on a career day, and I had all of the students to actually draw out. And, everyone is doing this around, the world where they have, kids draw out what a scientist looks like. And so it's so, amazing to me what kids really see what represents as a scientist. And, I want kids to actually draw themselves because everyone is a scientist. If you have a brain, you're a scientist and you can solve problems. And so this is what we want to instill in our young ladies. But technology hasn't stopped, emerging. And today what we think of. Every day we complete so many algorithms, so many machines, so much DVD. We even think about DVDs, and alarms and the VCRs and how technology, and I'm saying this because how technology is emerging has, fully just basically mind blowing in regards to AI. And I'm pretty sure you wake up in the morning and you say, "Hey, Alexa, wake up, Alexa," or "Hey, Alexa, turn on my lights," or, I talk to Alexa every day, but that's of what machine learning can do. And this is what technology has done. But we need people and we need a diverse mindset to be there and actually training these machines. So, what's going on? There's still fewer CS majors and even less women. Now, this was taken a couple of years ago, but it still represents fewer CS majors than 10 years ago. And so it's utterly really shrinking. But in the 21st century, like former President Barack Obama said, in the new economy, computer science isn't an optional skill, it's a basic skill. And so even though students might not become computer scientists, it's okay. They need the foundational skill to be able to think logically, critically thinking, those four C's that we always talk about. But this is funny because this was created and it said by 2020. It's 2020 already, right? So we know that there is a lack of computing jobs. And this basically stated by 2020, 16.3% of our jobs will have some form of computing. We know this. We're in 2020 right now. And we know that this is actually happening. And we need our young ladies, we need a diverse mindset. So, like I stated earlier, this is a call to action. And I want to fast forward this picture right here. I actually got to participate in a startup. And basically, this startup was with young students. They were actually creating different startups, they were entrepreneurs. And so I had a conversation with a male college student who was majoring in electrical engineering. And in this course of our discussion, he, mentioned that he became so passionate about electrical engineering during an event that was actually about combating water issues that was held at his high school. And so I thought about this. Are our students really exposed to all of these opportunities that a lot of students in affluent areas are actually exposed to? Think about, are you presenting these opportunities to your students? He's talked about the students had to work together, they had mentors to come in, and this is what helped him major. And he's actually a really good entrepreneur, but this is what helped him major in electrical engineering. But think about our students that are in not in affluent areas. What are they being exposed to? So, this is why we need educators. This is why we need you. We need you to strive to spread the word about computer science. And so you see this slide, and we always hear that, we need to bring computer science in the classrooms. This is a huge issue. However, if we're not learning, if we're not understanding what computer science is, how can we spread the word? So I urge you to basically take a class. Many of you have time at home where you can basically infuse that learning, infuse that coding into your distance learning lesson plans. If you have time, when you can actually take up a class, there are a lot of classes that you can take online. And I'm meaning classes just on how to teach computer science to your students. This is where we need you to attend trainings because you have to be intentional. And being intentional, we think about this, and so we're like, when I first, started doing this keynote, I wanted to be intentional in regards to how I'm relaying the message, because everyone is not going to be a computer scientist. We know this. However, be intentional on what you're introducing to your students, what opportunities, what you're applying for, what grants you're applying for. Be intentional on everything we're doing because it matters for the next generation. I believe it starts, like I stated earlier, with you. And so we have to become excited about learning and shifting our mindsets. I talked about what it takes to be a connected educator, and it takes shifting your mindset. It also takes, taking something that was a fear. A lot of people say, "Hey, I'm not good with coding." I really never, took coding when I was in school, and so that's okay. It's always about just taking that stereotype that we have and gaining a different understanding. Anyone can learn how to code. And that's always people say, that's a cliche, Kim. That's something that I really wholeheartedly believe in, that everyone can learn how to code. Everyone can learn how to bring these opportunities to our students because it's about our students. It's about providing them with the opportunities. So begin sharing ideas about computer science with others. Just have conversations. You can go to ed camps. You can start an ed camp if you're not sure. And I always say ed camps because they're so authentically ran, and it's things that you can take up. Now, you might want to have a virtual ed camp. However, right now, there's something that you can do with your colleagues during this time if you're doing distance learning right now. Be an advocate. Come together and discuss why there's a lack of women. And so I actually started an EdTech Women's Forum at some of our local conferences a couple of years back. And so I just wanted to know how we can be role models. What can we do in our classrooms? What can we do after school? How can we start a movement in our communities, in our homes, and get rid of the biases? What can we do? And so that's what I want you to think about. And so, this is a picture of us that after we met, we were so excited about bringing any type of girls coding, any type of club to our communities. This was the start of this. And this is what you can do as well. I always and a couple of my good friends and I we present all over because of the fact we're wanting to spread the word, and this is what you can do as well. Hey, you can even go global. Focus on the community. A couple of years back, we had a way where we invited the mayor, we invited the radio stations out, we got involved, and this was a couple of years ago. But this has expounded it into something that has, that's really imaginable. And so you can host the Hour of Codes, and it's just all about the exposure. But I want to think for you to think about this. Why does all this exposure, why does all this celebration, preparation matter? Because still to this day, only 4% of our high school girls are selected for actually select computer science or STEM fields. So I'm going to let that sink in for you. In middle school, 74% of our girls express interest in science, technology, engineering, and math. But when choosing a major, only 0.4% of our high school girls actually select computer science. What's happening? What's happening in middle school and high school, and the reason why they're actually majoring in these computer science fields, in STEM fields? Remember, everyone doesn't have to major in these, but we need this because we need a diverse mindset. I heard a story about when they were first making the seatbelt. They did a lot of tests. They did, a lot of scientific research, and they, went out and created the test. But one thing that was missing is a diverse, subject area of actually testing with different people on these seatbelts. It's because they were missing women. And so they had to go back, a lot of years afterwards after they created the seatbelt because there were no women scientists right then and there. So think about those things when we're creating, like the Alexa, and when we're creating these new mind blowing, innovative technologies. We need a diverse mindset there. So create girls in STEM coding clubs, like Sister to Sister. This is one where I presented at because my whole purpose and passion in life is to make sure that our girls have the opportunity. And it's about exposing them to the possibilities that are out there. Now, let's shift this paradigm. And we need you. We need you on the forefront. The buck stops with you. You're able to do this. And I know that you can. And so that's why my message today is so strong. Although we are in the distance learning mode, you still can bring this to your students. Expose them to everything. There's so many opportunities on Twitter that people are sharing. It's just amazing how many educational resources that are out there right now. Just put it in one of your plans that you're doing. And we make sure that we are motivating our girls. Thank you so much.